Alright boys, welcome back to another video. Swaggy here. Tonight we're going to be reacting to the 31-13 loss over Denver. Very unfortunate game. The Colts marched down the field on their opening drive and scored a touchdown. They then got the ball back, kicked a field goal. They go up 10-0. They could have went up 20-10, but JT ended up dropping the ball before scoring, and it was a touchback. Although that play was frustrating, and I think that's sort of what sent us into an absolute spiral. Everything collapsed after that. We can't just look at that one play. I mean, Anthony Richardson was 17 of 38 for 172 yards, 2 picks, no touchdowns, did rush for 46 yards and a touchdown. We ran 32 for 149. I mean, we ran the ball well in the first half. Like all those yards, I think 105 of them came in the first half. We just didn't do anything in the second half. We got outscored 24-0. Of course, there was a pick six that A.D. Mitchell threw. Shane Steichen, again, I don't want to keep sound like a broken record. The first half, Steichen was dialing up amazing plays. We saw it was a 4th and 1. It was a fake sneak pitch, little shovel pass to the right. JT picks that up. We also saw the design run. We saw Richardson throw into some tight windows. We kept picking up 3rd and longs over and over again, but ultimately Denver they started to lock in. They didn't even need to dial up pressure. I thought Denver would blitz a lot more than they did, but they were content rushing 4. Our offensive line was bad. I mean, I think Denver has arguably the best front in football, but the Colts just got beat up front. And when they weren't getting, well, technically if you're holding, you're getting beat, but if the Colts weren't giving up a pressure, giving up a sack, it was a hold, which now puts you into 3rd and long, 2nd and long, 1st and long, and the Colts they don't have the explosiveness to be able to overcome that. Clearly this team has a lot of work to do. This was definitely one of our best one of our best defensive performances of the season. We held Knicks to 130 yards, 3 interceptions. We did give up 3 touchdowns. Of course, one of them came late in this game when it was over, but it counts. But still, really, it was 2 touchdowns, the 3 picks. We did a good job of not necessarily making him get rid of it quickly, but we did come up and make tackles. Gus Bradley loves to run cover 2, let you throw it underneath, and then relying on making those open field tackles, which we did. No complaints whatsoever about the defense. 27 of 72 rushing. I mean, this was the Colts' best performance of the year. Best performance probably of the last 2 years. Actually, not the Panthers game maybe last season where Kenny Moore had a couple of pick sixes. But this was just an elite defensive performance by the Colts. I honestly feel bad for that unit. Grover Stewart, Odangbo, D-Buck. I truly do feel bad for the defense and how they played. It wasn't just the front, it was the secondary as well. Cortland Sutton had 3 catches for 32 yards, one of them including the touchdown, which came late in this game. So they just did nothing. The Broncos did nothing offensively. The Colts just gave them good field position, or they just gave them the ball altogether. I mean, 5 turnovers is insane. Michael Pittman Jr. lost a fumble. Jonathan Taylor lost a fumble. Anthony Richardson threw 2 interceptions. And then, A.D. Mitchell with the pick 6. So I don't know what else is there to say, man. I mean, the Colts shot themselves in the foot. It's just wild because this game would have changed everything for their franchise if they're able to just stick it out, man, and find a way to win. Even with Richardson playing poorly, if the Colts just didn't turn the ball over, they would have won. And if JT didn't have that fumble too, the Colts would have won pretty comfortably, in my opinion, if they could just control the football. But they didn't. But you also have to give Denver credit because their defense, I said it coming into this game, it was the best in football. They've got the best front. They've got a Super Bowl level defense, a Super Bowl level defensive front. Their front seven's so good with Allen, Benito, and of course they've got Cooper. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, they've got so many good guys that they just like to send at you. And we saw Richardson be under pressure. Early on, he was able to escape it and just to keep plays alive. But ultimately, the Colts they sort of ran out of I don't want to say magic, but they just sort of ran out of that juice that they had. Alec Pierce left with a concussion and never returned. A.D. Mitchell, it's very easy to look at him and be like, he's done nothing this season. He just threw a pick 6. Yes, the Colts should not have put the ball in his hands in that big of a moment, but we've got to remember he's a young receiver. I still stand with A.D. I think he's going to be a good player. He's 22 years old. Very, very young for an NFL player in his first season out of Texas. You got to give young receivers time. I mean, if he was 25, 26 years old in his 4th, 5th season and he was still doing this, maybe. But he's the type of guy who I think the rest of the season, now that we're not making the playoffs, if the Texans lose their next 3 games, we still can make the playoffs. And believe it or not, that's actually not as low of a probability as you think, because they've got Kansas City, Baltimore, and then Tennessee, who beat them in Houston like 2 weeks ago. It can happen, but to this point, like, I'm not really focused. I'm not fixated on the Colts making the playoffs because they're 6-8. It's just not really going to happen. But just getting some of these young guys more involved. So, for example, A.D. Mitchell, but another guy I'd like to see get more involved is going to be one of our rookies, Anthony Gould. He is our return man, but he did have a nice catch in the zone coverage late in this game. But I think he's the type of guy we honestly should get more reps. Like Alec Pierce to this point, yeah, he should still be out there. I mean, he's having a career year. Why not add on to it? But just, getting like a guy like Gould and Mitchell more involved. Do we have like a Will Mallory? I think Will Mallory is actually the perfect example too. Just get some of these young guys in there. I think Goncalves is starting the rest of the year because Braden Smith is out with personal reasons. Glowinski got the start at right guard. We actually went with Danny Pinner. Danny Pinner was awful in this game. I mean, just from the eye test, he had a couple of holes. I just don't think he played well. But again, matchup was very difficult. But like Ryan Kelly's a pending free agent. He probably will play next week, but I don't see why we would. I would go to Tanner Bornolini, who's clearly the future center of our team. Quentin Nelson should stay at left guard. He's making a lot of money and he's good. Bernard Ryman. Yeah, him and Ryman and Goncalves, I think, is going to be fun on each side of the tackle position. Defensively, if we can finish off the season strong and build the next year, I'd be pretty happy. But, yeah, in terms of just, Anthony Richardson's kind of what we're looking at here. Because when we talk about the Colts, we're going to talk about Anthony Richardson because this team's going to go where he goes, man. He's got to play well to even have a chance. And he just didn't. Like, against New England, I mean, he did have a couple of picks, but, again, like, big difference between the Patriots and the Broncos. If you make mistakes against the Broncos, a playoff team who's now 9-5, then you're not going to be able to overcome that. So, although the defense was amazing and the offense was trash, hopefully the Colts can figure it out because, Richardson, obviously, like, I'm putting a lot of the blame on him because he's the quarterback and he's got to be better. But the pass rush for Denver was great in this one. Colts receivers just didn't separate, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. They're just a better team. Like, I think that's what it comes down to. I know it's easy to look at the first half, there was a point where the Colts could have went up 20-10, but again, the best teams in football always show up in the second half, and the Colts didn't. And it's not the first time this season that's happened. So, for us, we do have our next game against, who are we playing? I think we played, I don't even remember. I think it's the Giants. Nah, it's not the Giants. We have a home game, I think, against the Titans. Yeah, I should know. I'm a Colts fan. We have a home game against the Titans. We're at New York. I lost the schedule, and then we're at home against Jacksonville. I definitely want the Colts to win out because it still gives you a chance to make the playoffs, and it also helps build in the next season. If the Colts, let's say they lose their next 3 games, and that would put them at what, I don't know, 6-11. Yeah, that's a better draft pick, but for the Colts, you shouldn't be focused on draft picks. You should be focused on just winning games. 9-8 is kind of like, if you're gonna have a winning record, I feel like 9-8 is the worst because you're not gonna make the playoffs with that more than likely. Which the Colts, I certainly probably won't. But it's a winning season. But it's just, I don't know. It's like, but at the same time, I think for the Colts, they kind of just need to finish off strong here and to go into next season at least with some momentum. But yeah, this roster, I do think that the roster is good enough. It's just they're not executing, right? A lot of that is going to come on the coaching staff. I think Shane Steichen has to do better. I think Gus Bradley has to do better. Jim Bob Cooter's got to do better. But also, it's not just on the coaching staff. I think like 50% of it is. I think the other 50% is, again, execution. Like the coaching staff, they had a good plan. I mean, we saw it being executed, but it just wasn't for 4 quarters. So, the Colts were the number 1 fourth quarter scoring team coming into this, and they didn't score in the fourth quarter. So I said in the video coming into this, if the Colts are just close in the fourth, then they'll have a chance. And they technically were, but eventually it just got to the point where the Colts weren't able to overcome it. But, yeah, tough loss, man. But, I mean, this season, it really was never about the playoffs. It was more so about the development of Richardson and, yeah, reps. He started 4 straight games for the first time in his young NFL career. So hopefully he can finish off strong. And, yeah, I'm out. Peace.